Before we will give you some more practical insights into how you can use the Playback toolbox, it is important to discuss first what would be in it. Academic terms and slang can be difficult, but are essential to understanding what entertainment education is all about. Therefore, we will discuss 3 academic tools for you to use. 2 that relate to entertainment education itself, social cognitive theory and the elaboration likelihood model, and 1 about the academic insights on storytelling. Because once you have learned what the theories of entertainment education hold, you will have to, of course, apply them. According to the social cognitive theory, developed by Miller and Dollard, people learn not only through direct experiences, but also vicariously through the observation of models. However, the likelihood of actually replicating the behavior depends on 4 cognitive processes, which are attention, retention, production, and motivation. The most influencing factor is motivation, without which people would resist the message and consequently not change the behavior. But how do we motivate people? According to the authors, 2 determining factors are outcome expectancies and self-efficacy. Outcome expectancies refer to how people interpret the consequences of certain behaviors. The more positively the consequences of a certain behavior are, the more likely it is that the individual will replicate the behavior. Additionally, entertainment education messages are more effective when they are conveyed by someone who is perceived as similar or attractive to the audience. Self-efficacy, instead, refers to the confidence of the audience in their ability to replicate the behavior. One important aspect to increase perceived self-efficacy is to show someone with whom the audience can identify themselves with successfully performing the desired behavior. The elaboration likelihood model, developed by Paddy and Cacioppo, explains how people interpret and elaborate messages. This can be done following 2 routes, a central route or a peripheral route. How people will perceive a message depends both on their ability and motivation to process the message. Motivation to care about the message depends on many factors, such as personal relevance of the topic. Ability depends on both personal characteristics but also on environmental ones. In order to increase people's ability to understand the message, it is important to have an environment without noises and distractions. The higher the motivation and the ability to perceive a message, the more likely people will follow a central route. This means that the message will be remembered for a longer period of time and that people will be more likely to enact the desired behavior. On the other hand, when people are not motivated or able to elaborate the message, they will follow a peripheral route. However, this will be less effective in changing behaviors. To reduce resistance to entertainment education messages, the extended elaboration likelihood model was developed. According to this theory, engagement is fundamental to influence beliefs, attitudes, and behavior by reducing message counter-arguing. Engagement can be created through transportation inside the narrative and identification with the characters. We have now given you 2 examples of some tools to use while telling your story. But how can you use these tools? To explain this, it is easiest to take a multimodal approach to telling a story. Every presentation can basically be broken down into the 3 big V's: verbal, vocal, and visuals. These are features that go together to create the discourse to get across a message, and fine-tuning them to the message you want to get across can help you get a grip on your audience perception. First, there is verbal. This is the content of your presentation, the literal words you are using. It emphasizes that everything is important, from what you can actually talk about to what words you would use. Vocal is the sound you make, or how you use your words. Tone of voice and tempo, but also the use of silences and emphasis are all of utter importance. Visual is the graphical part of your presentation, but also your body language and gestures are very important. You are a theater group, you know these things and we know what you know. But with our tools and your skills, we will help you fine-tune the 3 big V's to your story. Let's see an example. So let's say ahead is a funding pitch at a bank to collaborate on a new project. When creating the presentation, you can use the big V's and one of the academic tools to guide you. We will be using the elaboration likelihood model to make decisions per V. Let's start with verbal. The elaboration likelihood model suggests that messages are most effective when the receiver is motivated to and capable of understanding the message. And the message is simple: you need money. But the bank knows that already. What the bank wants to know is what is in it for them. When meeting with a theater group, they might not expect financial jargon, so surprise them and make sure you do your homework and talk their talk. Return on investment is a term that you cannot miss. For example, quote some statistics and financial numbers instead of using quotes by children or parents. The second V, vocal, is the sign we are making. The message needs to be understandable, so don't talk too fast or too slow, too soft or too loud. But because you chose your words so carefully in the previous step, you owe it to them to let them be heard and understood. So when you tell them what a great financial year you had, let it sink in for them. The last, visual, means that you just not talk their talk, but also walk their walk. Make sure you look responsible, dress their way, even though the tie is really annoying, but it is really worth it. Know where to put your hands and use them to convey your message. But at the bank, make sure those numbers sink in. Reinforce them by showing them on the screen, but make sure they are not too distracting. And above all, make sure they are correct. Of course, this is years of academic research reflected in a 5-minute visual. There is so much more you can do. But we believe that using our tools, you are on the right path of strengthening your passion for communication. And when you know what to say, even a trip to the bank can be fun.